Can you hear me?
Can't hear anything.
Yeah, we're trying. They did a lot of muting.
What's that?
They muted everybody.
Oh, okay.
Okay, we're ready to go.
All right.
You may have to call roll. Mine's catching up. My computer decided to do
Yep,
it.
I can do that.
I'll jump in as soon as I can.
Okay, start. Everybody good?
Can you mute yourself, Karen?
I can't get to anything. I'm not actually connected to Zoom.
Okay.
You need to
Actually, I gotta
mute
wait for
Roland.
just, you can call to order. I'll just I'll do it by new paper.
Steve, it's rolling. And Mike is unmuted.
Good. Good.
Okay, I'd like to welcome everybody to the October meeting of the Laconia Zoning Board of Adjustments. And with that, I have something I have to read. Due to the COVID-19 crisis and in accordance with the Governor Sununu's Emergency Order Number 12 and Executive Order 2020-04, this meeting is to be conducted in electronic public participation. The public has access to listen to and participate in this meeting by using the following link: Zoom meeting, and enter in the passcode. You must be using the Zoom app on an enabled device to participate in the meeting at the appropriate times. Please copy the link below to join the webinar. https://us02 web.zoom.us /J/420987946 ? PWD equals B1 JNVO 3E3 CX HT MUZS YX ZKTKN IZUU3 UTO9 / passcode 979327. Our iPhone 1 tab. US is the phone is 131-262-66799. And then enter 854-2098-7946 and passcode 979327. Or 646-558-656 854-209-87946 is the number, and then passcode is 979327. Our telephone and listen only. Dial for higher quality. Dial a number based on your current location. In the U.S., it's 312-626-6799 or 646-558-8656 or 301-715-8592 or 346-248-7799 or 669-900-9128 or 253-215-8782. Webinar ID is 854-2098-7946 with a passcode of 979327. International numbers available, https://us02web.zoom.us/u/k-crd7LJNCR. With that, we're going to go ahead and call the meeting's been called to order, so we'll have a roll call, please.
Roland Mayhew.
Here.
Stephen Bogart.
Here.
Mike Foot.
Here.
Gail Ober.
Here.
Michael Duffier will be here shortly. Staff in attendance, recording secretary is Karen Santoro, and I'm Dean Trefethan, planning director.
We currently have 4 in attendance. So with that being said, we have a quorum, and we'll go ahead and continue. We had roll call, recording secretary, staff in attendance, acceptance of the minutes from the previous meeting. With that, does anybody on the board have any additions, corrections, deletions, and anything accordingly to change? Gail? Mike?
No, I don't.
Roland? No. Okay, with that, there be no additions, changes, and or whatnot. So make a motion to accept as is.
Motion to accept as is.
That's a second with Roland. All those in favor of the motion.
Aye.
We'll do it by roll call,
Okay.
and that way for the we'll have everything in order. Mike?
Go ahead.
Mike?
Yes.
Gail?
Yes.
Roland? Yes. Steve? Yes. So the minutes are accepted. Okay, next is extensions. We have no extensions. So then we have number 8, continue public hearings, consider and possible vote. The first application will be 8.1, application number 2020-0037 SC, 4 Duffers Drive, Unit B, special exception. Applicant is requesting a special exception for Article 7, Section 235-70, subset 2, to allow short-term lodging.
Mr. LaFourcade should be attending remotely. LaFourcade, probably doing it at Norland Technologies.
Is the applicant available?
I see him on Zoom. He's got his hand up, Steve.
We're working on it. Be
Okay.
patient, please, everybody.
I don't see any names. I don't see any hands up. What's the last name?
LaFourcade.
Diana, if you can put your hand up, maybe I can identify.
Wayne.
Very first one.
Hello.
There you go.
Okay, good. Yeah, I didn't have any of the controls. I just got the controls for the first time. Anyhow, yeah, I submitted the some documents that was requested in relation to 2014 and 2012 from Bayside Rental, proving that that I've had rental use of rental for over, I guess, 10 years, somewhere around 8 to not 8 years, about 8 years.
Okay. Steve, is this the information that you sought at the last meeting?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
It seems to cover a lot of the different information that was requested to indicate that they had their 5 years of previous renting and stuff and on a continuous basis. So does anybody else have any other questions of the applicant?
Not me.
This is what we're looking for.
It was. We needed proof. Because what was given in the beginning was just a little letter, text message or something that said, yes, they've been doing it. And actually the way the regulation says is we should be able to have proof to show it. Okay. And that way, if there's any questions of anybody or anything, it is shown with the backup documentation that they've been using a rental company to do the rentals for them. And it appears that it goes back to 2011, 2012. And it also looks like there was some taxes being paid and stuff like that. So it's indicating he's been, as far as tax worthy, upstanding and everything, doing everything as should be filed and stuff. So So does anybody have any questions that,
No, sir.
nope. Roland, do you have any questions?
No, I don't. He did what we asked.
Huh?
He did what we asked.
Okay. With that, I'm going to open it up to the public and I'm going to give Dean a minute for the public.
If anybody wishes to speak on this agenda item, please raise your hand on Zoom or in the audience. I don't see any raised hands.
Okay, with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and close it to the public and bring it back to the board for any final questions. Gail? Nope.
No.
Okay, with that being said, sir, are there any closing comments?
No, just, yeah, no real calls and comments.
Okay, with that, I'm gonna close it to the public altogether and bring it to the board for discussion. Gail?
No, I'm good. I'm ready to make a motion if you're ready to entertain one.
Well, I don't hear anybody else doing anything, so go ahead and make a motion if you'd like.
Okay, I make a motion that we grant a special exception for short-term lodging, application Z02020-0037, for 4 Duffer Drive, apartment B, to allow short-term lodging. The use is specifically authorized by the chapter. The requested use will not increase demand for municipal services. The special provisions are set within our ordinance. The requested use will not create any additional hazards to the health, safety, and general welfare of the public. And the applicant in this case can demonstrate that he has been using this particular piece of property for short-term rental since 2011, which satisfies that criteria.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
We do have a second, and with that, I would like to add one condition to that, if I may, and that would be this property rides, this, if it's accepted, would ride with the owner and would expire upon the owner selling the property. So Gail, since you made the motion, is that acceptable to add as a condition?
Well, in this particular case, I don't know that it is, Mr. Chair, and I don't want to belabor this, but we've got this coming up before. I read the short-term rental agreement, and basically the clause simply states that the property has been used in this way. It doesn't say that we can specify it to the owner.
But it doesn't say we can't.
It doesn't say that we can't.
Well, I think since the bylaws of the association state that we can do it weekly rentals, that, you know, one should kind of work with the other. I mean,
No, we agree with you that whatever your
association.
condominium documents allow you to do, but unfortunately, the condominium documents do not trump the city zoning code. The city zoning code is above all of it, and that's what sets that up. Gail?
Can I say something?
Yes, Roland, you need to unmute yourself.
My name is Roland Mayhew. And
You need to unmute yourself, Roland.
how do I do that?
I can hear Roland.
Did I do it?
Yes.
You're there.
Okay. I think that we should end the process when the person sells the property, because if we don't, we're encouraging the selling of a property, and we're providing an asset for the sale of that property. And I don't think that's what the city should be doing.
Is that to say that that the next owner cannot rent the property?
No.
No, basically what that says is
That the next owner would have to apply and base it on their own self as the code says. Okay, currently you as a homeowner have been using the property as that. That doesn't give the property in itself that right. It gives you that right based on getting approval through the city.
But I'm just trying to understand, will they have to prove that they've been renting the property for a substantial amount of time, over 5 years? Because that would be impossible, right?
You see, by giving you this zoning, we're not creating a business atmosphere for you. This is not what this is based off of. And if that's what it's based on, is you being able to get a higher selling value for your property because it's set up for that.
Just to let you know, as part of the ordinance itself, under section 5, owner approval is owner-specific change of ownership shall require a new application. So it's already part of your ordinance.
Oh, okay. All right, then I agree to that. Okay. If that's
Okay.
if that's in it, then that's fine.
And I agree too, but I just want to understand, what's the requirements going to be for the new owner?
They
Not
would
that I'm
have to
planning on
show
selling.
that they've been leasing it for 5 years and they haven't, so they would probably not. They would have to come to the board. I can't speak for the board on the approvals or disapproval of future applications. They would be required to meet all the criteria currently that all applicants will have to meet in order to get that approval.
I see.
The ordinance is not set up to create a bed and breakfast business for people so that they can buy and sell homes and sell the resources. It's set up for individuals who have found themselves with a second home, who are trying to help pay it off and using this format on helping them to pay their taxes and their stuff like that.
That
Not
describes me exactly.
market selling it so they can get an increased value on their house using these kinds of things.
I don't think that'd be the case. I'm not looking to sell it property. It's really, it never came to mind other than the fact that that was just brought up.
Right. So that's something we've been doing to make sure that it doesn't create a market for buying a house, marking it up, and then taking people out of the marketplace because it's now selling something that's at a premium and increasing the housing market value.
But it just seems that he won't be able, that the next owner will not be able to rent. It seems like it stops him dead in his tracks.
No, it gives them the same rights as it does everybody else to apply for it.
But he wouldn't, if I just sold it to him, he couldn't prove that he was renting it for 5 years. Okay. I'm just saying.
No, it's a good question. Okay. So we have an addendum we really don't need, but we brought it up anyway. So we have a motion, we have a second. I'm going to call the roll and by name. Mike,
Yes, I vote to pass it.
you're going to have to unmute yourself.
I can hear him.
Yes, I vote to pass it.
Gail,
Yes.
Roland,
Yes.
okay, it passes. So thank you very much.
No, thank you.
Okay, the next applicant, do you need me to wait? Dean?
Is it okay for me to leave now?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Application, the next application is application 2020-0079, variance 34 Pine Street. Applicant is requesting a variance from Article 6, Section 235-33, maximum residential density to allow the conversion of the residence from a 2-family to a 4-family. Is the applicant here?
Hello,
Hello. Please state your name for the record and tell us how we can help you.
hello, my name is Hike Sellian. What I am interested in doing is taking my property 34 Pine Street and adding 2 units to it. Before I continue, I guess I was told that the variance has to go hand in hand with a special exception, which is also on the schedule. And I was told we may have to vote to hear them together. I'm not sure.
So tell us what you're trying to do.
Okay, so I have an attic as part of this house that I am looking to convert into a unit. And in addition to that, there is a detached structure on the property that I am looking to turn into a unit as well. I know there are some parking requirements, and there should be an attached map showing that.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Chair, if I may. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So there's really two applications on this property tonight. There's this one, and then there's the one at the very end of the meeting. Yeah, 9.6. So what he's asking for is a multifamily approval. We define multifamily as 3 units or more. He has 2 units now. So he needs 2 things, right, Karen? He needs a variance and a special exception. Is that correct, Karen?
Correct.
I don't know which one you want to do first. I don't think you want to do the special exception first because, well, I don't know. It's up to you.
He would need the variance for density first before you could entertain the special exception for multifamily. If he doesn't get the variance for density, then the special exception's a moot point.
Okay. Thank you, Karen.
Yes, so let's do the special exception first.
No. Isn't it just the opposite?
Correct. The variance first. He needs the
Alright.
variance for the
Do the
density.
variance first. So basically, you're looking at changing it from a 2-family to a 3-family?
A 4 if possible.
Okay, this is where we exchange words, sir.
I'm
So
sorry, can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay, I apologize. So I'm looking to change it from a 2 to a 4.
Okay. And just trying to fix my microphone. All right, does anybody have any questions?
I do, Mr. Chair. I just have one. This is residential general, right?
Yes.
Yes, okay. I just want to make sure. And if I'm reading my parking dimensions correctly, he would need, for 4 units, he would need 6 total parking spaces.
Yes.
Correct.
This is an old house in a tight neighborhood. I do know that.
It does have a fairly long driveway.
Will the people have to move out of each other's way to park?
It depends. What I did not put on that map that shows the parking is in the beginning of the driveway. It's actually able to go double wide, so you could fit 2 more there. But after I had 7 shown, I didn't know if I should just add more. But there is room for 2 more in the beginning.
Well, no, the question is if someone parks at the back of it and then it's filled up coming through, how does the people in the back get out of the parking space without waking everybody else up?
Yep. So I guess it would depend how they parked. If the 2 in the beginning parked at the left, and then the 2 all the way up top, and then you could do 2 more towards the right up top, you could go through.
In a perfect world, right?
Well, that is correct.
But we don't live in a perfect world, so
That is correct. If
basically what we're looking at is these people would be playing car shuffle because someone didn't quite move to the left or the right in the correct manner.
If it was necessary, there is space towards the end to add more spaces to
It's not
widen.
necessarily the more space, it's trying to get the people at the back of the lot out of the parking spaces without having to go knock on the neighbor's door.
Correct. I'm just saying it, if necessary, there could be more spaces in the back so that they didn't have to shuffle.
But then would you be giving up more green space to create those?
Either that or there's another small shed and just dirt where it could be replaced with more spots and where that small shed is.
Mr. Chair, could I ask a question?
Please.
Where do you park now? You have 2 apartments in there, right?
Is that for me? Yes.
And where do your tenants park now?
One of them does not have a vehicle. The other one parks right in the front, all the way towards the left, which it may not show it that clearly on that piece of paper, but you can park on the left of the driveway and you still have plenty of room to drive all the way down.
And how many, the apartment that you would put in the attic, about how many people do you anticipate being able to live in that apartment?
It is a very, very large attic. It would probably be a 2-bedroom.
2-bedroom,
So
okay.
I would say maybe 1 or 2.
And the shed out back?
Just 1.
That would be just a small, I drove by it today. I drive by it every day because I don't live far from there. I couldn't really see out back, so.
Yeah, that would just be a 1 person.
And you don't live in this property, correct?
No, I do not.
How big is that shed?
It's about 350 square feet. It might be 370. I don't remember exactly, but something along those lines.
And, well, it's immaterial. And what's out back? Is it grass out back? Is it pavement? Is it dirt?
It's pavement all the way till, I don't know how to explain it. There's a small patch of grass in the back towards the left after the small shed. But up through that small shed is pavement.
So it's basically pavement.
Yes.
Okay. Well, it's been that way for a long time,
I would assume so.
right?
Are each of these double arrows with the 95 between them, is that each of those the car parking spot?
Yeah, so it's meant to be spots. So there's 7 shown, but there could be 2 more in the beginning.
All of these, if the third car wants to get out, all of these other cars have to move so they can get out.
If you lined it up that way, what I was saying earlier is if the 2 at the bottom park to the left and 2 at the top park to the right, you can actually drive through with 6.
Is there, a-
Situation like this over on High Street a couple months ago.
okay. Is there a possibility that you could get a total of 4 parking spaces out back?
Yes.
I mean, could that, I guess what I'm asking you is, would you be willing to tear down not the big shed, the little shed?
Yeah, I was suggesting that if I did replace that with more spots, it would be much more easier to just drive in and out without having to worry about the left or the right.
And do your tenants rely on that for storage? Do you rely on that for storage?
I have a couple things in there, but I could easily remove that shed, which I was thinking about for parking sake anyway. So if that helps, I will do so.
The spot that is 1.1, how could you possibly get a car there?
Which one? I'm sorry.
So 1.1, all the way to the top on the left.
So
You know,
all the
I
way
just
at the
don't see
top
how
on
a
the
car can drive to that spot.
So in the beginning of the driveway where those first 2 spots are is double wide. So when I had asked about the parking, I was told that stacking was fine. So I didn't get too detailed on it. But if the 2 on the bottom park to the left, you can drive right by. And the 2 on the top can go to the right. And then you can get to the back left spots easily.
What happens if the first person decides to go away for the day with his friends and leaves his car there? How do the other people get out?
Well, if somebody doesn't park where they're supposed to, that would make it difficult. It might be worthwhile to put lines and spots to indicate, which I'd be willing to do if that helps.
The big issue here is, you know, if we wanted to grant a variance, that there's enough parking for everybody. It's not a hassle that, you know, you have to shuffle cars around during snow time, things like that. So, like that 7th spot, it looks impossible to get a car there.
What?
It is wider at the top there on the left, but as Gail mentioned, removing that small shed would definitely, you could put probably 4 cars there right up top.
I'm looking at your top-down thing from CAI Technologies,
Okay.
and I see 3 cars parked to the left, on the right side of the building over to the left.
Yes. There's extra spots, which I did not indicate when I sent the parking map.
And in the area where it says 100.66 feet, which is just a measurement, but that would be the driveway to the back?
Yeah, the 106 is from the
Just
street.
in the space. I know what the distance means. I'm just saying that, is there room for 2 cars to be 2 cars wide in that driveway?
In the front, but not in the middle. The front and the back, but not in the middle. So in the front 2 spots, you could go double wide. That's why I was saying if those stay on the left and at the top they stay on the right, you can.
See, in the photo, those aren't cars on the left. There's 1 car, and then it looks like 2 porches or stairways.
Okay, all right, thank you, Mike. Okay,
You see the white car, and then further up, there's two square boxes that I assume are stairways.
Yes.
okay. That's where my confusion was coming in. Thank you, Mike. So right now, what we're looking at from the top down is what it looks like with one car parked there.
Correct.
And we need to get a total of 6 cars in there.
Do we?
Yeah, it's 1.5 per apartment. So if it's 4 apartments, that's 6.
What happens if there's a snowstorm in the middle of the night? People have to go to work the next morning.
Huh.
Not even move shovel the snow off the cars.
Access for fire.
If it is more preferable to add spots at the top where the small shed is, I'm willing to do that.
But would you be taking away from the green space? Would you be adding pavement?
No,
Or
because
some sort of a gravel driveway, or would you just be parking on dirt and grass and mud?
from the pavement and where that small shed is and the space in between is all dirt, so it could be converted to more driveway because it's not grass, either gravel or just dirt or
It's
pavement.
whether it's pavement is my question. How much of this back here is pavement? There's an amount of green space that you have to have. Do you see what I'm saying in this particular zone? And
Okay.
if we allow you to build a bigger parking lot and pave it without putting gravel or doing something that's environmentally saturated, then we're creating a more non-conforming lot out of a lot that's already non-conforming. Do you understand that?
Okay. Yeah, the grass is to the left of the small shed.
Okay. That's what I thought I was looking at.
Yeah. So I was thinking in place of the shed and between the two sheds.
Any other questions of the applicant at this time? There being none, I'd like to go ahead and open it up to the public and ask if anybody from the public wishes to speak for or against this application. Please acknowledge by raising your hand. Dean, do we have any acknowledgements?
Just a second. We've got
Okay.
one raised hand. I gotta find it.
It's called a Greg.
All right, if I could ask, if someone wants to speak, could they hit the raise your hand, please? I can't find it. I don't see any raised hands.
Yeah, Greg took it off. I had saw it, but he took it off. Okay, since no one wants to speak from the public, with that, I'm going to bring it back to the board for further questions.
Are we just discussing the parking here, or are we,
Anything dealing with the variance of this property?
can I ask what our minimum size tiny house rules are?
I was gonna ask that. It's a good question.
I believe the minimum is 300 square feet for a living unit. We don't define a minimum, but the building code does.
Any other questions?
What's in that back building now that's he wants to make into an apartment?
There is, so this is what I learned later. This has been a learning process for me. It was converted before I purchased it. And I did not know, because it's a separate building, that it was in part of this variance. So that's why I had to amend the variance. So it is made for living at the moment.
Yes, okay. So apparently it was a garage at one time and they converted it into an apartment.
Yeah, I think it was a printing shop at one point as well.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I do have a question. Are you the current owner of this property now? Is this something that was recently purchased?
It is recently purchased in
All right.
June.
Any other questions?
How about our rules on density? How many units you could have with so much green space? Are we inside the limits with that if we were to approve this?
The density, does it fall within the density?
He's requesting a variance for the density. He currently is at maximum right now. 6 units per acre with a 0.2 acre would allow for 1.8, I believe it is, units. So the 2 units is,
So now we're looking at doubling the density with 4 units?
on that lot, correct, he is requesting to go from 2 to 4.
And that's the special exception is the density, or is that the multifamily? Because one of them is asking for,
The variance is for the density to allow him to exceed the number of units, so he could go to 4 units. Then the use for the multifamily is a special exception, so he would need the variance first to allow the extra density before you could look at if you were willing to grant a special exception for the use as a multifamily. It's special exception in the RG zone.
Um,
does you understand that one, Mike? So what we're talking about now is the density.
Before the special exception,
Right.
Which is
without density, the
because of
special
its
acceptance is
zoning.
denied.
Are we still asking questions of the applicant, or are we back at board discussion, Mr. Chair?
No, I was waiting to see if there was any other questions. I was gonna be able to get you. Are there any other more questions of the applicant? There being none, are there any closing comments from the applicant? On the
No,
variance.
other than I'm willing to adjust parking with that shed if you so require. Thank you.
Okay, with that, I'm gonna close it to the public. No further comments from the public, and it's now discussion at the board.
I guess the only thing I'll say, Mr. Chair, is that this is a tight neighborhood. It's a non-conforming lot. There's probably nothing that can happen there that would make it a conforming lot. As you know, it's one of the older neighborhoods in the city. I would be willing to consider putting the little house in the back to a residential unit, but I think 4 is too much for this spot. I could compromise at 3. Is there anyone else on the board that has an opinion either way on that?
Looking at the map, not the photo, the architectural drawing, you could put 2 cars on the left in the beginning of the driveway. But if there's a car parked at the top on the right-hand side of the driveway, the other cars are locked in. It's a mishmash. I don't even see how you can fit 3 cars on top, which with the 2 cars in the beginning of the driveway only gives you 5 spots. If you could squeeze 3 cars in, which I don't think you can. We're just kind of pushing the envelope here.
Well, that's why
Issue.
I think we're pushing it at 4. I'm certainly, I'll be right up front. I'm not going to approve 4 units for this building. Somebody could convince me that they could get 3 units in there. If the little shed came down. And they improved the parking in the back, is what I'm saying.
Can you still get 3 cars in the back? That's my question, without moving cars around for people to get in and out.
With that little shed gone, yeah, I would think you'd be able to get 3. He'd need 3.5, 4. He'd need to have 4 spaces total in the lot if we were to give him 3 apartments there.
Now 3 would be 5,
4.5.
4.5.
4.5, so you might as well say 5 spaces.
Okay.
So the question is, can you get 3 cars in the back?
If this little shed was gone, I think you can. That's why I'm saying I would, with the right presentation on a better parking schematic, I could consider 3. Not a chance I'm going to consider 4.
Go ahead.
The little 19 by 19 shed out back has already been converted for a living area, is my understanding.
Yes.
So again, then without, that's already done. Would you be able to utilize the upper story? Is there actual room for a whole family in there? Or a couple?
I think the biggest question is properly maintain that many different groups of people. The density, that's the whole point of setting the density for the square footage of the property.
Oh, this is just the amount of land. If you had one car length side by side for 4 cars, you'd be all right. But because of the way they're set in here, you can't get a car in and out of that line without moving all of the other cars. And that's, to me, makes a problem.
Yes. But I think that goes with special exception and not necessarily with variance. The variance is just to discuss the density of the property. Do we feel that the property can maintain the multifamily use of 4, which is increasing the density by 2.
Well, I was saying, right now, there are 2 families in the big house. And you said there's 1 family in the small building.
I didn't say that.
Somebody
They said, the applicant said that.
And he wants to put 2 more, so we're gonna have 5 units.
No, you'll have 4.
Just 3 units in the big house and 1 in the back.
That's what I understand.
So
Still doesn't change the density.
even at the best of this,
It increases the density.
It does.
Of course it does. Right now, it's set up, the density is set up for a 2-unit. That's the
Right, no, I
maximum,
understand that.
that's the maximum density. So if you put 2 more units in, they're increasing it by that magnitude,
Really, yeah.
okay?
I was thinking, talking about the small house.
in reality, it's already 3 units there anyway.
Yeah.
So if it's,
There's 3 units illegal there, yes.
so
It's
at
not
best
shown-
here, we would be approving an acceptance for that increased density.
Yes, that's right, Mike. That was what I was saying.
Except that nobody considered density when they made it converted to small buildings.
Rules,
It doesn't
rules.
sound, it doesn't sound like the rules were followed when that 3rd unit was put in place.
Oh, when
Because when that variance would already be in place for that, or something would have already been put in place.
I think it's a stretch to really start to impact the density there by adding a whole another unit on top of what is already overloaded. Beyond density.
What do you think, Michael?
Too much.
So, Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Yes, please.
whether it's 3 units or 4 units, he needs a variance
Right.
because of the size of the lot. So at this point in time, you're looking at variance. And the question is, are you going to allow 3, or are you going to allow 4? Or are you going to leave it at the legal 2? In which case, 1 unit would have to be removed. Which is unfortunate for the applicant because he bought it in that configuration, unbeknownst to him that there was an issue.
That would be between them and their realtors and their, all of that. Has nothing to do with the city though. Okay, due diligence on their part and their realtors and stuff is up to them, not the city. So. Okay, any other discussion, Gail?
Like I said, I'd be willing to let him reuse the little shed in the back as a third unit total on that property, provided he took down the little tiny shed and made an additional parking space in there. We're not going to change the configuration of any of these lots in that stretch of Pine Street. It's crowded. It always has been. It was built that way. I guess what I'm trying to say is I believe that the benefit to the city by allowing him to use the small building out back, as he said, a 1-person or a small 1-bedroom, tiny house, if you would, Mike, outweighs the benefit to the community, certainly outweighs whatever detriment that it's going to cost him. But I'd like to see the little shed come down and him add 4 or 5 legitimate parking spaces there. I can see that happening in that neighborhood. But I'm not going to give him 4 total units. That's out of the question. It's way too small for that. What I think I'd like to see is if he could reconfigure that and perhaps come back to the board or maybe go to the planning board for a mini site plan review for the 3 apartments.
Well, let's see what the rest of the board would like. Because I'm not sure the rest of the board's looking at 3 units either.
Okay.
From the feeling I'm getting here from sitting here, the density is the problem because it's going to increase the density beyond from what I'm feeling here. But I would like to entertain either more discussion or a motion.
It seems to me that approving the 3 is once again another after the fact approval, which is so many people coming in saying, look, it's already this way. It should just stay that way. I don't know. It certainly is not conforming to what the ordinances were or intended to be.
No, I don't see how it's benefiting the ordinance.
No.
There are a lot of grandfathers, a lot of other more apartments in the city. That just happens to be another one.
Do you think their mom-in-law really lived there?
I don't think so.
So, anybody up for a motion?
Well, based on what the consensus of the board is at this point in time, I make a motion that we deny the variance for 4 units at 34 to 36 Pine Street in Laconia. The reason for my denial is that, which is a request to convert to a multifamily unit of 4 dwellings. While the use is allowed in the chapter, the restricted use will create undue traffic congestion. It could impair pedestrian safety because there is not ample parking there. It does not meet the density requirements. As for C, I don't see that it would overload public water drainage or anything like that. There'd probably be some extra garbage there, but it's a multi-unit family and a tightly knit multi-unit family neighborhood, so I'm not as concerned about that. I would hope there'd be no additional need for police, but it could make for a tight fit getting a fire truck down there now, so I think it does fail on that account. And, I'm reading off of the special exception. I apologize.
Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta start over again. I was reading off of the wrong form. Hang on, I apologize for this. Okay. The variance would be contrary. It probably would not be contrary to the public interest. All right. I'm going to motion to deny it, but this variance is not contrary to the public interest. It's in the public interest to create more small affordable housing in Laconia. That is stated quite clearly in the master plan. If the variance was granted, the spirit of the ordinance would be observed. The basic zoning objective is to create less density in this neighborhood. So I would say the spirit of the ordinance would not be observed. As for substantial justice, I don't see where it causes any diminishing of any of the surrounding property. And I do believe that the gain to the general public by denying it does not outweigh the loss to the individual. I don't see the surrounding properties being diminished at all. As for the house being constructed in 1950 as a camp, I can't speak to that. I can only say that the hardship criteria in this is probably not met as he has written it. So that is my motion to deny. I will tell the applicant personally that I would reconsider a reconfiguration of this for the 3 units, but I'm not going to consider this application in front of me as presented.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. Discussion of the motion. I have a question. Substantial justice being done. The benefit to applicants should not be outweighed by the harm to the general public or to other individuals. Increase. Could you explain that part a little bit? Yeah.
I think the benefit of the applicant is greater than the potential harm it could do to the neighborhood. It's a tightly knit neighborhood anyway. The unit exists, but I'm denying 4. I'm not talking about 3 right now. I'm only denying it as it's presented.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that request is for 4 units, not for 3.
Right.
So my denial is based on the fact that, all he has to do is fail on 1, and he has failed on 2. But the spirit of the ordinance is not observed in this case, because the spirit of the ordinance is to reduce density in the residential general zone. And this adds
It's not
density.
to reduce density.
Or it's control density.
Right.
Okay. So however you want to, the basic zoning objection is not being met by this application.
Okay.
And that's why I'm motioning to deny it.
All right. So we have a motion. We have a second. I'll do a roll call. Go.
How are we going to affect the farm? It's legal.
It's not legal.
It's what?
It's illegal. The third apartment.
That's what I'm saying. What are we going to do about it?
We're not doing anything about it. We have an application that says he can only have a 2 unit, which is what that density is set forth for that property.
So it's not somebody else.
That's between him and the planning department. It goes back to planning. Okay. Mr. Booth,
Vote to deny.
Gail,
The vote tonight.
Mike,
In favor of the motion.
Roland,
I'm in favor of the motion to deny.
and I also, Steve is also in favor of denial. So your variance has been denied.
That include the special exception.
Well, the special exception is not denied. It sits in probably should be withdrawn based on the fact that the density is not available for the property. Would that be right?
Yes. We'll work with the applicant.
Okay. Do you understand what happened?
Yeah. Can I just ask one question?
Yes.
So that it was denied because the application was for 4. I wasn't sure how to ask for 3 or 4. Does that mean I can still ask for 3 potentially?
You can talk that over with the planning department.
Okay. Thank you.
Because they would still be, we can't answer that question because it would be implying that the board would agree to negotiate down to 3 or whatnot, and the board doesn't negotiate in that situation. So you would have to talk with the planning department and then figure out what difference there. But based on this, I would recommend you withdrawing your special exception application at the moment, because that way, if we take and vote and moved on this, it would be denied, and then that would do you further complications versus just withdrawing it for the moment. And then if you and planning can figure something out, then it makes that a viable resource.
Okay. Thank you.
So for the record, you're asking to have that one withdrawn?
Yes, please.
Okay. Let the record indicate that the applicant is requesting to withdraw application 2020-0099. Okay?
Yep.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, the next one is application 0081 BAR 111 Island Drive variance application. Applicant is requesting variance from Article 4, Section 235-19-2B. Minimum requirement is specified area of the shoreline protection district to allow addition to a portion of a second floor. Would the applicant please come forward at this time and introduce yourself for the record?
The applicant did indicate they would be remotely attending the meeting. The last name is Osgood.
This one come up before.
Sorry. So my name's Diane and Bernie Osgood, and we own a place at Christmas Island, 111 Christmas Island, and we probably purchased this a little over 20 years ago. And we are requesting two things if possible. Would like to raise the building by 1 foot. It's lower than the road out front, so the water runs down and into our basement. And the siding is actually touching the ground, so it's rotting all around. And then would also like to add a 23 by 20 and a half inch addition, 20.5 anyway, which would include a deck. So we're not looking to extend our footprint. And our cottage is on 1 floor on the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side, it's 2 floors. So we're just looking to carry it over, not to extend in any way. When the building was built in the early 50s as a rental cottage, it was built below grade. So over time, they added a road and built around it. And so would like to correct the issues so that we can have a dry basement, since it's always damp and there is mildew and it just smells. And so over time, our family has grown and we now have grandchildren that come to the cottage, and we're concerned with potential environmental issues, just with the mildew and the mold and the water that's running down. And I'm not sure if this even makes a difference, but I'm just going to make reference to it if it's all right. When we bought the place, like I said, over 20 years ago, the deed makes reference to the right to construct an addition, and the right to extend the existing deck, and the right to construct a full basement beneath the cottage. And I can show you the deed. And again, I don't know if it makes a difference as far as you're concerned, and it may not, but I just figured I should mention it. So those are the two things we're looking to do. We're just looking to raise it and then also build the addition if we could.
Yes, in reference to the deed itself was probably tied to Christmas Island, where they had restrictions and stuff like that. And so what that was doing is probably allowing you the ability to build on it, but it has no, on a positive note, if your application is approved, it doesn't get in the way of the approval. So that's about all that does for us. I mean.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't think it would make a difference to you, but I just thought to mention it, so.
So, all right, do we have any questions of the applicant? Yes.
And just so I get the picture straight, looking at the picture where you're looking at the big ledge and the chimney, you want to continue the second floor across where the chimney is now?
Would remove the chimney and just carry it over, yeah, right? Oh.
No.
Oh, wait a minute.
No.
He's correcting me. Hold on.
Excuse me, would just leave the chimney, would build around it.
Oh.
So we're gonna raise the left side of the unit that you're looking at from the street. And would build around the chimney, and it has a fireplace on the first floor, under that first floor roof.
And you want to build on top of that?
Yes.
Yes. We're not going to extend the height or the footprint, either front, rear, or side. It's going right on top of that to go up to where the other roof line is.
That way the two roof lines would match up?
Yes.
Oh.
Which we think it might be a little more attractive, but we don't know.
Now, if you're going to raise this, is the whole building raised or just the half?
The whole building in the front is below grade. If this car wasn't in the way, the crown of the road, the driveway, let's say, is higher than the beginning of the sidewalk. And then when you walk to the side, from the sidewalk to the door, the front door, you step down a step, and then you step up to the first floor. So the first floor, the hardwood floor, is actually, I've got it written down somewhere, about 8 or 10 inches below the crown of the road. So the water goes down towards the house. We put a drain at the front door to run it around to the side. But when it fills up, it goes between the siding and the foundation and gets down into the basement.
When I'm looking at this deck area, is that the same elevation as your wood floor inside the house?
The deck area, which
I'm looking at a picture here, I see
a deck on the left side
I can't tell that for right.
with the garden hose on the same picture with a big tree. I'm trying to pull up the picture that you have. Yes, you've got the American flag to your right and a deck to the rear beside the tree.
Oh.
So if you can see the grade there with the basement window,
Yep.
right of the tree, you see how the grade comes up literally over the siding by the time it gets to the front of the house. And if you look straight across the front of the house, you see the sidewalk coming down. There's a step right behind the bush, and then there's another step down to a grate. We put a grate there because there's a drain under it. So when that portion of the sidewalk fills up with water at a rainstorm, then the water goes into the basement.
So the entire first floor is going to be raised, is that correct?
No, the left side of the first floor is going to be raised. If you look at the front of the house, the first floor goes over to the right all the way to the walkway down to the dock. So just underneath that left side is a kitchen and a small sitting area. That roof is going to be brought up to the same height as the roof on the right, which is going to give us an extra bedroom.
Right, but the present floor, the present first floor of the building stays where it is?
On the right-hand side.
No, on both sides. The present first floor stays where it is on the left and the right. We're going to bring the ceiling, let's say, on the left side up to match the right side.
But we're also asking to raise the building by a foot.
That's separate, but the floors will maintain the same. Right now, we step down. If we go in the door, we step down when we take a right to the right first floor. There's one step. The original cottage is just the left side of what we're looking at here. That was the part that was built back in 1950, I think.
The single story portion. The single story portion?
Yes, that is the original cottage.
All right. And then you have the two-story part.
Correct.
And from the picture, it looks like the one-story part and the two-story part, that first floor is all at the same level.
Negative. The cottage is actually higher than the new addition to the right. So the step down, when we walk through the front door, you walk halfway into the room and it's a step down.
Okay.
But we're looking to raise the building.
We're going to raise the
whole building.
The whole building 1 foot,
1 foot.
which will bring us up above the first floor.
Okay, that's the question.
Above grade.
So everything that is currently on the first floor right now will be raised 1 foot, which means obviously the second floor raises a foot as well.
Correct.
And then you want to add a second floor to the one-story addition.
Correct.
Are you going to have a deck on that newly rebuilt left side, as it were?
On the second floor, that's where we're looking for the deck.
And there is a deck on the right side now on the rear, and we're going to carry it over as noted in the deed to the left
I
side.
don't care about the deed.
But the key here, what I'd like to emphasize is the decks are already on the back of the building, first and second floor on the right, and just the first floor on the left. And the new addition would not extend anything beyond what is there now.
That was my question. So you wouldn't have a deck on this side of the chimney, on the water side of the chimney?
It would just, yeah, it would just be a continuation
So you are continuing it?
of the deck that's already on the back, correct?
Correct.
The second floor deck will go all the way from left to right.
Correct.
And the chimney would be encompassed in the backside of the deck.
Yes. And I believe I will have to raise the chimney a little bit because it has to be above the 10 feet away from the highest peak. It has to be that highest peak now is going to move over to the top of the chimney. So I'm going to have to raise the chimney 1 or 2 feet, I think 2 feet, to get for the fire code to be away from the peak of the roof.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, I don't think they need our permission to raise the whole first floor, do they? They just need our,
It doesn't exceed 35 feet, I don't think.
yeah, I think that's what's confusing
Unless we're in
everybody.
the wetlands already, and then that's the point we learned about a month or two ago.
No, you're right, Gail. They could replace the foundation,
Right.
increase the foundation somewhat to raise the house, so that's fine.
All we're concerned about really is the second, is extending over the second floor over what is now looks like the first floor. I don't know which is the front of the house or the back, and I think that's what's confusing me.
Okay.
Correct.
And
To add a second floor to the one
Add a
story
second
up,
floor to that
and
one.
to extend the second floor deck across the back of the entire new house.
Okay.
And the
How would
picture I'm looking at is the front, just so you know.
Which picture?
This one. Oh,
The flag is on the front of the house
That one?
and the cars are at the front of the house.
Yeah, I don't think you added a picture.
We don't have that picture.
The chimney's on the rear. Chimney's at the rear, correct? The water side,
Oh,
Okay.
right? The chimney is on the water side of the house.
But what we were trying to be careful with is make sure you had all the information at one time.
Oh, yeah, okay. As far as making the house waterproof, yeah, that's not really a concern of ours. We're only concerned with the square footage, that it doesn't go over, as Steve said, 35 feet. And then obviously you're asking for a variance because this is within the shoreline protection 50-foot buffer.
Exactly.
Okay, so what you're putting up there, you're already in the buffer. You just want to go higher in the buffer.
Yes, that's why I specified that we're not extending any footprint.
Other than the deck.
The deck is already there. A portion
Yeah.
of-
The deck isn't on the second part.
Yeah.
Does this affect runoff at all? Does anybody, I don't know, Steve, not
I
Steve.
don't think it would probably have any more or less runoff.
You don't
Since
think,
it's not increasing, the footprint is not increasing. So I can't see where it would have any plus or minus on the water drainage.
okay. And it's within all the other setbacks, side setbacks and everything else other than the shoreline. Does he need to go to the state for this? Steve?
Yes.
Okay,
This is a private community, so the side, front setbacks don't apply.
Thanks.
Just the short front.
And he's increasing bulk on a non-conforming structure. Hence the variance.
All right.
Can I just get clarification on that? We have to go before, I'm sorry?
You'll have to make application with the state for the shoreline protection.
Okay,
And the state will say conditioned upon what the city does, and then the city that says conditioned upon what the state does, you know, so that, once, you know, I can't make guarantees, but they always go back and forth to make sure both are in tandem with each other. So
Would there be any notes from their department that they could reference when we go to them?
there's usually, if the application is approved, you would have a notice of approval that you could possibly put with your permit request.
Okay, that would help.
Because they would usually ask that question anyway, I do believe.
Yeah, I think we condition the approval if we were to approve it.
Yeah.
On getting all your permits in order with the state. And that would be the DES, I believe, right, Steve? But the planning department will walk you through all of that.
All right.
Okay, any other questions at the moment?
I don't have any.
There being none, I'm gonna open it up to the public and ask if anybody in the public wish to speak for or against this application. Please raise your hand and give us a minute, and then Dean, the planning director, will locate you and bring you on board.
I don't have any raised hands.
Let the record indicate no one from the general public wish to speak for or against this application. Therefore, I'll bring it back to the board for further questions. Gail?
No, sir.
Mike?
No.
Mike?
No.
Roland? There being no further questions, do you have any closing comments for the applicant?
I don't think so. Thank you.
Okay, with that being said, I'm gonna close it to the public, bring it to the board for discussion.
Seems pretty straightforward to me. They're not going outside of the current footprint of the building. Certainly, you'd see the need for them to reduce the amount of moisture in their basements. I'm not saying anything that's terrible.
What you're indicating basically is that by the addition of the second floor to this property without exceeding the footprint of the building and building decks within the same width are going from left side to right side of the new structure, coming out no further than the existing deck currently comes out, is basically what you're saying is doesn't exhibit any issues whatsoever. Because basically it would be within the same, just increasing the internal square footage of the unit.
Correct.
Gail, do you have anything to add?
No, nothing.
I don't see any issues. I think it's okay.
Anybody like to tackle a motion, or you
I'll motion.
Okay,
I'll make a motion, we grant the variance to allow the addition of a portion on the second floor for application number Z 02020-0081. Granting the variance is not going to be contrary to the public interest because it doesn't conflict with the spirit of the ordinance or the basic zoning objectives. The variance is granted, the spirit of the ordinance will be observed. As I said, it's the basic zoning objectives are not in jeopardy here. It will do substantial justice because the cost to denying this variance has no benefit to any of the surrounding properties. Granting the variance, the surrounding properties would not be affected either way. It may, I don't see where it has any value on it or not. And the hardship, the hardship is just where the original building was constructed. It's an old lot. It is where it is in 1950. That's where they built things. We can't change that. So the hardship runs with the property in this case, that it is already built where it's built, and they're just looking to add square footage.
okay. So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second discussion of the motion. There being none.
Oh, we should condition that with the state approval of the shoreline permit.
Yes, and that's a condition.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, well, we haven't voted.
We haven't
voted,
I voted, yeah.
Sorry.
Okay.
I voted against, no.
I vote that we accept this application.
Gail,
Yeah, that's fine. I made the motion, so, yeah.
doesn't mean you have to agree with it. Just
I
means you made it.
Yes, I agree. I agree we grant the application.
Mike,
Agree.
Roland,
I vote yes.
and I also, Steve votes yes. So now you can enjoy it.
The grandchildren, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Y'all have a good day, man.
Thank you.
Have a good night. And thank you for what you do. It's amazing.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving right along, if we're ready. Next application is application 0083. That's a variance, 119 Pemberton Beach Road. Applicant is requesting a variance from Article 4, Section 235-19F2B, minimum requirements within specified areas of the shoreline protection district that allow the construction of a second floor balcony. Applicant.
I don't need those.
No?
Well, I got my hearing aids in. and
Okay.
I can hear everybody.
right.
On my phone.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman and zoning board member. Steve Smith, Steve Smith and Associates. Representing the applicants, Erica Blizzard and John Schooner. And the property is 119 Pendleton Beach Road. I have submitted both an existing conditions plan and a proposed improvements plan. Our proposal or request is to impact or penetrate the shoreline wetland 50-foot buffer. They're making improvements on the lot, rebuilding the garage, and putting a second story addition over a portion of the house. And that second story addition meets all the standards from both the side, rear, street setbacks. On that second story addition, they want to put a balcony on the second floor, which will penetrate the 50-foot buffer on the second floor. And I gave you pictures. And if you go to those pictures and you look at photo 3, you see a shed roof, a little small shed roof. It's only about 4 feet high in the area of where I'm talking about. And the building, or the structure behind that is the one that's going to have a second story, and that meets the buffer. But when you put the balcony on, it goes beyond the shed roof by 5 inches. It doesn't get any closer to the lake than the main structure itself. We have been to the shoreline. I attached an approval from shoreline for everything that we're asking for. I would like to point out that as a part of this improvement, we are going to be increasing the green space, and we're removing a substantial amount of pavement, which is very close to the 50-foot buffer. And that is a driveway that comes down along what would be the northerly side of the property. It comes all the way down right to the buffer. And you can see there's a catch basin on my plan, and that pavement ends just before that catch basin on the existing conditions plan. If you look at the proposed improvements plan, you'll see the area that I'm removing the pavement on. I have a dashed line around it. So by doing this, we are going to increase the green space. And I have submitted the application. I've addressed all 5 points of the law. And I'd just like to point out that this is a wetland or waterfront buffer. And the intent is to protect the natural ground between 50 and 150 feet to eliminate disturbance of soil, causing erosion, losing root system, and things of that nature. This particular penetration into the buffer is on the second story, will not change anything relative to that buffer and what's out there currently for ground. There won't be any disturbance of the ground in that buffer. I think it's very basic, being only 5 inches. And I would request the board consider this request for variance. And that's the only thing on this proposal that needs the variance, is that 5 inches. And with that, I'll turn it back to the chair. Be happy to answer questions.
Do we have any questions of the applicant? Yeah.
Nope. All set.
No, it looks fairly straightforward here.
Just for informational purposes, the state shoreland ordinance allows non-conforming structures to expand on the shore frontage in the buffer, a deck, open deck, screened-in porch, non-living area by right. The city's ordinance doesn't cover that, allowing of that. That's one of the reasons we're here.
So just for my understanding on photo 3, the little building, you might come
Put my mask on, I wore it back there, I didn't think I needed it, but you're fine, I just.
Okay. This is where we're gonna do the expansion up, and then that is where you're gonna come out with the deck.
The expansion is gonna come from the face of this back building up. This stays there, the way it is. That's the utility area. The balcony comes past that roof line 5 inches.
So this is already in the.
Oh, yes, that's all of that's in the shoreline.
Okay, all right, that's what I was.
Yeah, if you look at the existing conditions plan, and you'll see that 50-foot buffer line, which encompasses the deck that's over there, and plus a good portion of that glassed-in area is all within the 50-foot buffer. But we're not changing that.
Anybody else have any questions? At this time, I'd like to open it up to the public and ask if anybody in the public would like to speak for or against this application. Please raise your hand, and the planning director shall recognize you.
No hands.
Let the record indicate that no one wishes to speak for or against this application, therefore I bring it back to the board for any other questions. Yeah,
I'm all set.
any closing comments from the applicant?
No, I thank you very much.
With that, I close it to the public and bring it back to the board for discussion.
I think it's a great idea, eliminating age area, getting more green space. I don't see a problem with 6 inches.
That indicating that 5 inches is worth a good trade for the other. I don't disagree either. Anybody else? Gail?
No, I'm all set.
Roland? I'm all set. Okay. Like to entertain a motion then, if everybody is set. Come on, someone's got to have a
I will do it. I'd like to make a motion to accept the variance application number ZO 2020-0083 for 119 Pendleton Beach Road. This is for a impact on the shoreline waterfront buffer. It's already been approved by DES. They already have their permits from there. So using their own terms, granting the variance would not be contrary to the public interest because the purpose of the ordinance is to protect the water quality of the lake for all to enjoy. The existing house is a pre-existing non-conforming structure that's located within 50 feet of the waterfront buffer. The building was originally built to meet setback standards from both city and state. The proposal to construct a balcony off the second floor no closer than the existing structure without impact to the buffer area would not be contrary to the public interest. If the variance were granted, the spirit of ordinance would be observed because the ordinance was adopted to protect the water quality of the lake for the general public by limiting impacts to the shoreline, thereby preserving the aesthetic and property values of the neighborhood and surrounding community. The proposed balcony will not result in any impacts to the water buffer, thereby preserving water quality, aesthetic, and property values. Granting the variance would do substantial justice because it would allow the owners reasonable use of their property with no impacts to the abutting properties, neighborhood, or general public. If the variance were granted, the values of the surrounding properties would not be diminished because the current use of the site is an allowed use within the zone. The proposed improvement is in keeping with the abutting properties and neighborhood and will result in no impacts to the waterfront buffer and the water quality of the lake. No fair and substantial relationship exists between the general public purpose of the ordinance and the specific application of that provision of the property because the house is pre-existing within the waterfront buffer. The proposed improvement will not penetrate the buffer further than the existing structure and will not impact the surface of the waterfront buffer, therefore not result in any impact. The state of New Hampshire Shoreline Protection Division has determined that the proposed improvement will not result in an impact to the waterfront buffer and has issued a permit subject to local permitting. And the proposed use is a reasonable one because the use is an allowed use, is consistent with the abutting properties in the neighborhood, and will result in no impacts to the abutters, neighborhood, or general public.
Okay, we have a motion.
I'll
We have a motion. Do we have a second? I think Mike said he- Okay, we have a second. Mike seconded it. Any discussion of the motion? There being none, all those in favor by roll call. Mike, Mr. Cook.
I vote to pass it.
Yeah.
Vote it passes.
Mike,
I approve it.
Roland,
Yes.
and Steve votes yes. So the motion passes. So next on the agenda is application 2020-0084. It's a variance application. Is requesting a variance from Article 6, Section 23535A and 23535B, minimum setback requirements to allow for the construction of a garage. Would the applicant, when they're located? Introduce yourself for the record when you're set up and tell us how we can help you.
Greg, I think you'll need to turn on your video, start video with the little icon. You're on, Greg.
Greg? Are you there, Greg? Greg going once?
He's on, he's unmuted. He does not have video on.
He's not responding.
Correct.
Greg? Going once?
I'm seeing if I can.
Yeah.
It's connecting to audio now. Check. Nope, it's muted. Well, while she does that, how about if we move on? We'll do another application and come back.
There. Okay.
Greg, I don't know if you can hear us, but we're gonna put you on hold. We're gonna do another application and then we'll try you again. Okay? All right. Next application is gonna be,
Hi, is this Greg? Hi, this is Karen calling from City of Laconia. We're trying to connect with you on Zoom. Are you having an issue? You should have a small icon that says start video, so you can hear everyone. Okay, we can't hear you. There should be an option for you to unmute. At least that way we can hear you. If you slide your icon to the bottom of the screen, do you see, it should bring up like a taskbar. And all the way over to the left, there should be a little thing that says mute or unmute. Okay, I think you're in the upper. So if you have the full screen and you kind of just slide your mouse all the way to the bottom of what kind of off where the videos are, it should bring up a taskbar. Okay. And then on the left, and you're seeing that, it should say unmute, start video, and then you'll see participants, share screen. Okay, can you click on that at all? It should allow you to select the speaker. There should, you can try that and see if it allows you to connect. It should find your computer's microphone. Or are you wearing a headset? Okay, so it should allow you to select the speaker, which would say speaker or headphones. Okay, so yeah, it should tell you to select the speaker.
It says what? You can try that, see if it lets us hear you. Oh, see, I can't. I'm getting you on the phone, so can you gentlemen hear? No, they still can't hear you. Well, try unplugging your headset and see if it'll go to the computer microphone. Okay. When you hover over that, is it still telling you to test the speaker? Sure. And that should connect it. Okay, yep. But you can hear everyone, or you could. Okay. It's something with the way you're connected. Hang on one second. I may have them move to the next application and you and I can work through the hardware issue here. Hold on one moment. He's experiencing some technical issues on his end. If you want to keep moving, worst cases, I'll do the minutes from the video and try to get him hooked up.
Okay, due to technical issues, we're gonna move on to the next application and once we complete that one, we'll check back in with Greg to see how Greg is doing. So with no further ado, the next application is 0085. It's a variance, 17 Van Dyke Drive. The applicant is requesting a variance from Article 6, Section 235-34 minimum lot frontage to allow the subdivision of the lot. If we're ready with the applicant, it looks like it's Paul Fitzgerald. Tell us how we can help you and introduce yourself for the record. And he's muted.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes,
Yep.
we can hear you now.
Can you see me?
No, we can't.
That's probably to your advantage then. I've got the visual on, but I'm just going to present audio if that's okay with you.
It's okay with me.
All right, and you should also be able to see a link from Mr. Todd Chamberlain, who is the principal of the LLC involved here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't see him yet, so.
I see him. He's got his hand, had his hand up. There he goes.
Absolutely. The doors are unlocked, so why don't you go ahead and do that?
Okay, guys, I see Mr. Chamberlain, so we're all set now?
And we don't see him either.
Here I am.
Ah, there he is.
Hi.
Hi.
Okay, this application is for, as you mentioned yourself, Mr. Chairman, for the subdivision of a property on Van Dyke Drive. In all other respects, this would not need a variance. It creates two conforming lots. The reason that we're before you this evening is because Van Dyke Drive is a private way. It's not a public street. But other than for that distinction, it would not need any approval from the ZBA or other governing body in the city. The plan here is simply to, as I said a moment ago, to create two conforming lots. The variance criteria are met as I've outlined in the application itself. I would like to address a couple of points that may come to mind. First of all, I would point out that this is not dissimilar to the, at least in my mind, it's not dissimilar to the property on Zion Hill Road that you approved for a similar subdivision a few months back. The issue that it seems to me that would come to mind might be traffic and the flow of traffic onto Union Avenue from Van Dyke, because the street is admittedly somewhat narrow. But what we're talking about here is the development of a single lot in a residential zone. So I don't think that we're going to be expecting a great deal of additional traffic off of Van Dyke or onto Van Dyke into Union Avenue. And I would point out that there is traffic control in the neighborhood in the form of the light down by Messer Street, so that the traffic flowing on Union Avenue is brought to a halt and controlled fairly regularly. So I don't think there's going to be difficulty getting in and out of there. Plus, as I mentioned, the actual additional traffic from this particular one lot would be minimal in my opinion. The rest of the criteria are addressed in the application. Mr. Chamberlain and I are both here this evening and certainly willing to address any questions that members of the board might have.
Okay. Do we have any questions? Yes, Mike.
So what I'm seeing here is a shared driveway? Yes.
Will that be inputted in the deed as, upon both deeds as mutually taken care of?
If the board would like to see that, I don't think that's a problem going forward. You mean when the two lots are created?
Yes,
Certainly that could be
the two
done.
lots are created. I think something so that we don't end up with neighbors spatting with each other over who's keeping up their driveway. That it should be stated upon both deeds that someone's responsible for the shared driveway, right?
That makes sense. That's agreeable. Thank you.
Is that going to run down the property line, or is that going to be on one person's property?
I would assume that it would be a shared responsibility.
Okay.
It has been a shared responsibility in the past. And
Well,
speaking
I'm
with
just
my,
finding that if everything's in writing, we don't have down the road neighbors in here arguing about it. So, yep, but thank you for agreeing. Any other questions? Gail?
No, the only thing I'm understanding is because this is a private road, he needs 100 feet of footage and he only has 80 for each lot.
That's correct. That's the only issue.
That's the only issue.
So then we would be creating two non-conforming lots. Yes. Okay, I was misunderstood because I thought you said it would be creating two conforming lots.
They'll be conforming in terms of dimensions, density, things along those lines. Obviously, they're both fronting on Van Dyke, which is a private street.
Okay.
Okay. So that's what we're here really discussing is the 80-foot frontage. Is that right? For somebody? We're discussing the 80-foot frontage?
You're discussing frontage on a private road.
Okay. This has got to be my first discussion of a frontage on a private road. Is there any particulars that happens with a frontage on a private road versus a public road?
No, but your point about the easement and description of who takes care of the driveway is that's the only issue there. Yes.
Okay.
And we'll be more than happy to just make it a condition that they have cross easements, that we'll take care of that.
Well, we had a similar case on Mechanic Street a couple months ago.
Right.
The guy had his driveway closer to his house because the driveway was split.
Right.
I'm sorry, Roland, you were muted. I couldn't hear what your comment was.
He said it was similar to another applicant we had where the driveways were adjoined but not shared necessarily, but there was no, the only separation was a thin fence between the two driveways. So, any other questions of the applicant at this time?
I don't have any.
There being none, I'd like to open it up to the public and ask if anybody from the public wishes to speak for or against this application. Please raise your hand and the planning director shall attempt to recognize. Mr. Bailey. If you unmute yourself, tell us who.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate it. My name is Craig Bailey, land surveyor. I'm here representing Mrs. Sue Turcott, one of the abutters. The application that you have before you is an extremely non-conforming situation currently. There's 4 lots which are utilizing this shared driveway. And there's only less than 32 feet of frontage on a class 5 highway. To call Van Dyke Drive a street is, I think, giving it far too much quality. It's more of a driveway. There's little chance that a fire apparatus would be able to traverse that driveway. But really the problem here is you're making an extremely non-conforming situation even more non-conforming by creating this non-conforming lot of record with 0 frontage on a class 5 highway. Currently, tax map 388 lot 40717, tax map 388 407 lot 16, and currently tax map 388 407 lot 15, all access Union Ave with that less than 32 feet of frontage. So I think it's not within the intent and spirit of the ordinance to allow a further subdivision of lot number 15 because it would have 0 frontage on a class 5 highway. So the abutter's position is twofold. It shouldn't be allowed to increase a nonconformity, and there's probably a very real safety factor that should be discussed up that shared driveway. And the idea that the easement, the cross easements would be handled with just the 2 lots totally ignores the fact that there are 2 additional lots also utilizing that driveway. So that wasn't presented either.
Okay, could I ask a question of the abutter?
Sure.
So what I'm understanding you're saying, Craig, I believe is your name, is that you're not considering Van Dyke Drive a street or anything. You're considering that already a driveway. And your complaint, your issue with this is that you're going to have 4 pieces of property off of a single Van Dyke Drive, depending on how you want to call that, and that they're all going to, and that the real frontage you're addressing is what we see on Union Avenue, which is just shy of 32 feet. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
That is correct. You can call it what you want, but it certainly has 0 chances of ever being considered built to city standards. So that's why this should be considered a driveway. That's the applicant's position. Sorry, the abutter's position.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
I don't see 17 on the map we have here. You know, I see 15, 16 is a quarter of an acre. Is 17 the
17's down at the end.
Directly to the right of 16. Correct.
Yes. Correct.
And it shows the house there. All right.
And there are one house at 15 now? There is one structure there?
At 17.
Which on which?
There's a structure on 15 being resided. There's a structure on 16, which is currently occupied, and a structure on 17, which is occupied.
Okay.
So lot number 17 here at 41 Van Dyke Drive also uses that to ingress and egress from Union Ave, correct? Yes.
And lot number 16 has a right-of-way over it to access 47 Van Dyke Drive, which has the name Miller written on it. So you go over the Miller's property to get to the deepest property on this street. Is that correct?
Yes.
Are those the same two log cabin homes that we looked at a couple months ago? Does anybody know?
I don't think it is, because there was a church involved in that one.
Oh, these are the two up here, way up.
Yeah.
Beyond that.
These are the two lots that are closest to Union Avenue, correct?
Yes.
That is correct.
And right now it's 15, and then you're going to try to create a 17.
17's already there.
17
17's at the bottom of the map.
It would likely be 15.2 or something like that.
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay.
So lot 15's the first one. Is the first lot. And you're indicating that by subdividing that property would have adverse effect on the second property and the third property?
No, we're indicating that you're making a non-conforming situation more non-conforming, which is contrary to the intent of making things more nearly conforming. It's making a bad situation worse because of the zero frontage on a class 5 road. It's in other words, it's currently a non-conforming lots. There's 3 of them, lots of record. And you're suggesting that this would create a 4th non-conforming lot of record.
Mm-hmm. And that's because you're considering Van Dyke Drive a private road or you're considering it to be a driveway.
It's not my consideration, but is it built to city standards?
It is. You've made the statement that you're thinking it's a driveway. So who's making the statement then? Is it just coming out of thin air, or someone actually got this in writing that it's a driveway?
The applicant would need to prove that it's a road.
It says
they have
road.
not
It
done.
says Van Dyke Drive, so something
Yeah.
that has that kind of title, would that not indicate that it has to be some kind of something?
Where did that name come from? The point is allowed. It is allowed in the city of Laconia to create private ways, private roads. However, they need to be built to town standards, and this one certainly is not. Nor could it be brought up to standard.
If I could, Mr. Chairman, there's any number, as the board certainly knows, there's any number of both public and private roads in the city of Laconia that don't meet the exact standards that in the current code. Nevertheless, building permits are issued on them. As Mr. Trefethen certainly knows, there is a process by which the municipality can exempt itself from liability on private roadways if necessary when building permits are being issued. And in this particular case, with regard to safety access and things along those lines, any structure that's going to be built up there would have to be built to modern building codes and modern safety codes, and consequently is far less likely to create a safety hazard or a call for safety services as opposed to existing structures in the area, both on and off
Van Dyke Drive. So I think that the criteria of the ordinance are indeed met, as I stated before. And once again, with the exception of the issue of access on a public street, the lots are completely conforming in every other aspect. If one looks at the purpose of access or requiring access, it's to allow some kind of reasonable access to and from the road and to prevent overcrowding and overdensity, neither of which would occur in this particular case, because as I said before, a couple of times now, these lots are going to be conforming as to density and all other requirements as well.
Steve, could I ask one thing, and I'm probably going to ask this.
Gail, you can ask two things.
I can ask two things. Okay.
Maybe three.
Dean, do you, at this point, I guess my question is should we run this by our attorney? I don't know what we're trying to do.
What do we run by the attorney?
They're both, I think both parties have made an interesting argument here. Okay. And what we're trying to decide, what we're trying to determine is what is Van Dyke Drive? And is it recognized by the city? I don't know that I have enough information to go forward, I think is what I'm saying. It's a private road. Who maintains Van Dyke Drive?
The property owners maintain it.
The property owners maintain it. Okay, so they have some sort of an agreement, covenant, whatever.
We don't know that, and one of the advantages of this is that we can get the easements and everything in place, not only for this newly created lot, but the other two lots in the back that may or may not be legally covered.
But this isn't going to cost any of the abutters any money to make this legal.
No.
Oh, I can't.
No.
I didn't hear. Well, I didn't hear his question. I'm sorry.
The homes you're talking about, Roland, are on the end of Clark Avenue.
Right.
No, you do not. Van Dyke is in between the Irving Station and where Domino's used to be, or Subway is now. Yeah. So, Gail.
Right.
To answer your question about do we need to consult with our legal counsel, I don't believe that you do. The question here is you have a lot that is non-conforming. Mr. Bailey is right. It is a non-conforming lot. And because they want to subdivide it, you're creating more non-conformity. There's no disagreement about that.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the question before you, whether you want to do that or not.
Okay.
And the situation of a private driveway or private road, however you want to classify it, is not unique in the city, and people deal with it all the time.
Okay. I can't hear Roland. Maybe you could ask him to turn his mic on or something.
Mike, you gotta unmute Mike Delvecchia.
Someone's talking that I can't hear.
Yeah, let me try.
Water, shop, almost a dark-shaped turn.
Okay, Mike, you're live.
Paul, if you could explain to me
I don't see the map, how lot 15 is going to be divided up. And it looks like in the bottom of lot 15, there's a building that goes on 15 and 16.
Do you want to address that, how you planned on doing the lot line?
Well, I mean, I'm 17 Van Dyke, and I'm the first house as you go up the road, whether you want to call it a drive or a private way. I call it a private way. It's called 17 Van Dyke Drive. It must be for a reason.
Okay.
And as you go up the road, as you pass my house that I just bought it last July, it's a 2-family, and I renovated it and got it ready for rent ready. As you go beyond it, there is a big parcel of land. Now I thought, now I could be wrong, that frontage along that road, as you go past if you go past my driveway and you subdivide it there, and you keep going kind of like up the hill, there was at least the required. You're saying there's 80 feet there. I thought there was actually more than 80 feet, but let's just call it 80 feet, I guess. Then it goes to the next building. Between my house and the next building, I pretty much own all the land between my house right up to the next building, almost really close to the next building. And I thought that was enough frontage along that road to meet all the requirements for Laconia. If it's only 80, it needs to be 100, then maybe it's a little bit short. But I thought it met all the requirements there. So it's like a road. I mean, the road has, all the lots are conforming if you use frontage along the road. It just doesn't conform at the main road on Union Street. But there's a lot of land between my house, the first house, and the second house. And that large parcel of land, I thought met all the other requirements for the city of Laconia.
But what I'm not seeing here is the delineation of how it's going to be subdivided. I see this map,
I have
this
not,
layout.
I
don't
admittedly have not
see-
got a survey to show you where the lot lines would be.
But that would be an issue for the planning board.
The applicant, the abutter's position is, where in the ordinance does it allow for 80 feet or even 100 feet of frontage on a non-public right-of-way? Produce it. It's not there because it's not allowed. It needs to be on a class 5 public right-of-way.
Which is the purpose of asking for a variance.
Agreed. But the point is, first off, everyone keeps going back to, we have the required amount of frontage along this Van Dyke, whatever it is. That's a moot point because it's not a public right of way. And then lastly, I'd like to have the applicant prove the 5th point of the application, which is of course the hardship. What is the hardship here?
Okay. Is that all the comments you have?
I don't know if I see a hardship.
Well, sir, that's okay. Is that all the comments you have for this?
Mr. Chairman, I think our position has been made, and the abutter would like to thank you very much for your consideration. And I think we're closed at this point.
Okay, so thank you much.
We thank you too.
Is there
Okay.
anybody else from the public that wish to speak for or against this application?
I have one more question to Attorney Fitzgerald, if I could.
Okay.
Unless anyone else
As
has
soon as
got-
I finish, just hold off for a second, Gail,
Okay.
and I'll bring questioning back to the board. You're muted, Steve. Huh? Is there anybody else? I had to transfer to my phone, so I don't. We got back. more things came alive, whatever you did. Thank you. So if there's no one else from the public who wishes to speak for or against this application, I'll bring it back to the board for further questions.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, my question is, I see the way it's worded here. It says subdivision of lot into two parcels having less than 80 feet of frontage. Okay? But we don't know what that means. How much frontage is there now?
It's approximately 80 feet.
Well,
So the total frontage on Van Dyke Drive is 80 feet.
That's my.
There's no concept of frontage on Van Dyke Drive. That's not a concept.
Who is that speaking, sir? You're speaking out of order. Please refrain.
Thank you.
Dean, could you mute that gentleman? So did we get an answer for Gail?
And then my next question is kind of part two. If we grant this variance, and that's a hypothetical at this point, I heard Attorney Fitzgerald say something about going to the planning board. Would there be some, we don't know what the size of the two lots are going to be that we're potentially creating, do we?
Oh, no, the subdivision is what would actually have to go before the planning board.
So this would be classified as a subdivision,
Yes,
and that would have to go for full site plan review, mini site plan review.
that would be up to the planning department and the planning board, but there would be some regulatory process there, Gail.
Okay. That's what I wanted to understand, is where in this process we are. So we have no idea whether the planning board is even going to allow this, whether or not we grant a variance.
No, but I would think that if we have to start somewhere, and I think that it makes sense to start with whether the use is going to be allowed or not. And if that occurs, then we can configure the lot and take it to the planning board for whatever process is necessary there.
Okay. Because I guess I had written into this, Paul, and I clearly note that you didn't put this in there. I was reading into two parcels, each having less than 80 feet of frontage. That's not the case.
No.
The total frontage on the lot is 80 feet. So we don't have a clue as to what the new frontage is going to be once this goes to the planning board. We're just voting to divide it somehow.
That's correct.
Okay.
I wouldn't use the phrase "you don't have a clue," but the ultimate configuration is for the planning board.
I'm saying, Okay. I mean, you've answered my question.
So my question is, on this Van Dyke Drive, as it is, it seems this first part, on lot 15, so number 17 Van Dyke Drive, has, if you're going to call it frontage, plenty of it. And at the top, we're seeing 152 plus 78, so maybe 220 in the depth. And that Van Dyke Drive goes all the way past that to the lot number 16 and beyond that 17.
Correct.
So I'm confused as to why it doesn't have enough access or frontage. And it's difficult because there's no line that says how we're going to divide this.
Well, I think you're right in terms of your measurements, but as I said, the ultimate configuration is what's going to be decided by the planning board. But you're not incorrect when you take into account the existing lot 17.
Address 17.
Yes.
On lot number 15.
Yes.
Excuse me. Just one quick question. I see on lot number 16, on my map, it says Miller. And then there seems to be a dark area there. Is there a structure that is on both properties?
Not that I know of. Todd, can you address that?
I have there's a small garage close to the house that's set back on, if you're looking up the street to the right side of the property on the right-hand side, but it's nowhere near the Millers, the second. It's adjacent to my house at 17. It's nowhere near the Millers as if I got that correct. Millers the second.
Also see a dark square area that looks like it's half on the Miller's property and half on yours. What is that? Or is that a misprint, or is that just?
That's a misprint. There's no structure up at the line of mine and the Millers.
If I can just interject, Gail, that dark line is actually, if there used to be a structure, there's actually two structures. That dark line is actually the point of separation. They just both happen to be close to the property line. It's actually two separate structures, not one.
So there is a structure right on the Miller's property line, and then there's a structure on the Miller's that's right on the applicant's property line.
One of them may not be there. Those images are older, so if the
Yeah.
applicant is there.
All right.
Sorry. Is it okay if I talk?
Yes.
There's no structure that's on my property that's near the Millers in that corner. I think I know what you're talking about. I don't have it right in front of me, but there's nothing up in that corner there by the Millers. That's on my property. That's on my land.
Okay. That clears it up for me. It does.
My question is, what's the minimum lot size in this area, Dean, if you can help us? Because I see they have 0.87 acres.
It's just because you've been sitting out here for a while. We can't have people.
Okay. I'm just taking a call that we didn't expect to have to take.
All right, sorry.
It's 10,000 square feet, so slightly less than a quarter of an acre.
Which is lot 16 is 0.24, a quarter acre.
Right.
And
but we're not discussing lot 16.
Correct, but it seems to me if lot 15 was divided, they could both have well over a quarter of an acre.
Correct.
And they looks like they would well have way over 80 feet of frontage on Van Dyke Drive. Which the Miller property has approximately 90 feet on Van Dyke Drive, ends at 47 Van Dyke Drive, which I was calling lot 17. Correct?
Yes. If you want to look at frontage as being on a private driveway.
So it's only lot 17 that does not have frontage.
So the actual road appears to stop midway because it looks like it's wide enough for a road and then it stops and shrinks down to the size of the driveway, right where the wetlands start. Is that what I see?
When the driveway, for lack of a better term, leaves the applicant's property, there's a right-of-way delineated on the Miller property.
That being 16.
Lot 16, yes. So that the people at lot 17 have a legal access to their land. They're landlocked. Lot 16 is landlocked. And lot 15 has frontage on Union, and then it has, if you want to consider it, frontage on Van Dyke. The question though, I think you're making this a little more complicated than it needs to be.
You are too, yep.
The question is, what's now lot 15, which is 0.878, which has 32 feet of frontage on Union Avenue, making it a non-conforming lot. The request is to divide this land into 2 lots that would have non-conforming frontage.
So it wouldn't even be the Van Dyke Drive. The non-conforming part is what's on Union Ave. 32 feet.
Correct. I mean, technically speaking, lot 16 and 17 do not have any frontage on any street, any city accepted street.
So basically, they have an easement across 16 and 15.
That is the assumption, and that would be one of the things that we would be checking out as part of the planning board process. If you decide you want to allow the variance, then we would check out the various easements and how they're related to one another.
So what would be happening then if that was separated? We would have still one with a 32-foot road frontage and then create another landlocked piece of property. Is what I was just explaining.
Essentially, yes.
Because we are now determining that does the post office, I guess another question is, how does the post office deliver mail? Do they deliver it? Is their mailing address Van Dyke Drive?
They have numbers, 33 Van Dyke, 47 Van Dyke.
I don't know for sure, but I'm going to guess that the mailbox is on Union Avenue.
The mailboxes are on Union Avenue.
And there is both water and sewer up there, right? City water and
Yes.
sewer?
Yes.
So all of the properties?
Yes.
I
Well-
believe.
Wouldn't you have a sewer easement? Are they or are they not serviced by public facilities?
You said they were.
Mr. Chamberlain should know.
I know my property is serviced by water and sewer.
And how about the Miller property and 47 Van Dyke? Are you,
I believe they are, but I couldn't have, I do not know that for certain, for sure.
they probably don't have enough land for a septic system, right?
Yeah.
Don't you need 2 acres?
Yeah.
Almost, yeah.
You do.
So they
With
should
one
have sewer.
40,000 square feet. But if the lot has both, but the lot doesn't exist now, is what I'm wrestling with.
Mr. Chair, I would like to ask a question of Mr. Bailey, if I can. Are you still there, Mr. Bailey?
We have a meeting.
I'm just curious as why the Turcottes are so much against this subdivision.
Mr. Chairman, this is Craig Bailey. I don't know why Mrs. Turcott is against the process, nor does it really matter.
It does matter, Mr. Bailey, because I'm leading to favor it, and I want to know why the neighbor thinks it's such a bad idea.
Which property does the Turcotte own?
Right there, 11 Mechanic Street, just above the divisions. You see that?
No.
No,
On this picture, this map?
I don't have that.
It's in the application. And, you know, there's 3 houses using Van Dyke Drive now. To add a 4th house doesn't seem that horrible out of character. And I'm just curious as to why the Turcottes are so much against it.
Mr. Chairman, let me turn it over to the landowner. Stand by, please.
Sure.
Hi, this is Cal Dunn. How are you?
This is who?
Cal Dunn.
I thought this was Turcotte property.
It is. I reside there.
Well, are you the owner?
My fiance, Mrs. Turcotte, is.
Okay, so you're not a person of the deed as of yet.
What's that?
Your name is not on the deed as of yet.
No, it's not.
Okay, then unfortunately.
You can speak as a member of the public.
You can speak as a member of
Sure.
the public. Go for it.
You've closed the public hearing.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, shucks.
Well, I can reopen it. Go ahead. This is a curious story going on, so I'm intrigued.
Okay. Basically, when we got the abutters notification, there's a few issues here. Public safety is one of them. Right at the corner of Van Dyke and Union Road, Union Ave, there's a brick building right on the sidewalk, and you cannot see around that. I have lived there for 4 years. I have seen all kinds of tragedies happen in the winter months. I don't think any more traffic on Van Dyke is a wise idea. They actually, in the winter months, they go to the other side of Union Ave and they wait until traffic is clear in both ways. And then they get going across Union Ave to try to make the hill. And they only make it about halfway up and then they slide back down into the sidewalk. I have seen this numerous times out my window. First of all, it's a safety issue, like I said. Second of all, it's a non-conforming lot, like Mr. Daly said. And by the city granting this, I think you're opening the floodgates for anybody to subdivide their land. It doesn't have the proper frontage. And I don't know if that's what the city of Laconia needs or wants.
And, okay, and that's your 2 reasons?
Those are my main 2 reasons for it, yes.
Okay, all right. Thank you for your answering that question.
Thank you.
Does that answer your question?
Well, it does, but it's not a satisfactory answer because, we had a similar situation on Clark Street a few months ago. And this is very similar to that. And I personally don't see the problem. It's a big enough lot to have another building lot there that Mr. Chamberlain owns.
I think I'd feel differently about it. If it was just as it was and we didn't have 16 and 17 already using the road. And I'm not seeing that we're going to build a multi-story, multi-family here.
But then at the top of the hill, you have another 4 houses.
But they are accessed a different way.
No, they're not. They're actually right by that Van Dyke Road. Because if you get on the backside, that's all owned by Taylor Home.
But they don't drive down Van Dyke.
Well, where do you drive down?
Mr. Chairman, to Mr. Delvecchia's point, the Clark Ave situation was being brought more into conformity because that situation had multiple residences, multiple single-family homes on a single lot. And so by allowing the variance on Clark Ave, you ended up having single-family homes placed on their own lots of record. And so that was taking a non-conforming situation and making it more nearly conforming. So I disagree with Mr. Delvecchia And it is not similar. It is in fact the opposite of similar.
Okay, my only question still remains is there water and sewer up to that second lot?
I don't know how many people have been up that road. Maybe it might be a good idea for us to take a ride up there sometime and take a look, because there's a steep area on that hill that you're not gonna build anything on.
Pretty deep for me. It looks like someone's private drive. I wouldn't be likely to go up it.
I've been up.
I think it's unique in that you already have two other residences here using it. So it's not like that access is going away. They still need to get to their house.
I think that's still a private road too.
Personally, it seems like a chance for them to tighten up their access rights and make sure that it's more properly established. And I don't know, I'm torn here between the creation of another non-standard, which is still has enough room to be bigger than the quarter acre next to it, which still uses the same drive. You're gonna get one more single residence house in there.
Okay, at this point, is there any other questions of the applicant?
No. I have no more questions.
Are there any closing comments by the applicant?
Just a couple of points to address Gail's question about water and sewer. I can't state that definitively this evening, but my guess is that those properties are well within the area where it's required. In other words, there's dimensional requirements. If you're within certain distances of interceptor lines and so forth, you have to connect. And I would believe that they would be connected. Although, as I said, I can't state that absolutely definitively. With regard to the situation overall, the objecting abutter ignores the fact that variances are built into the ordinance for a reason. We've outlined why we think we meet all of the criteria for them, including dealing with the safety circumstances that have been raised. As I mentioned before, the likelihood of a safety situation being created by brand new construction is pretty slim compared to the other existing construction in the area that's been there, in some cases, not simply for decades, but for over a century. So we think we meet all the criteria. We will go through the planning process as necessary. We will straighten out the access issues as we indicated that we would with the other properties. And we would ask your approval this evening. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I got one last question of the applicant. When they said that a shared drive between the two properties, is that shared drive being Van Dyke Drive? Or is it that drive? Because I'm looking at the drawing overlay called BLA-1. And I'm seeing another driveway coming off of Van Dyke Drive down. It looks like it would be the center of the property where there's a structure on the left side, it looks like, or the top side of it, Union Avenue side. So which driveway are we talking about sharing?
Mr. Chairman, you're muted, so I didn't hear everything you said, but I think I followed the gist of your question. And to try to respond to it as we go forward.
Right. Let me ask again.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. In your presentation, you said that in providing the splitting of the property, the division, that they would have a shared driveway. Okay. Now, is the shared driveway Van Dyke Drive, or is it that driveway? It comes down from Van Dyke Drive to looks like a a structure of some sort. And I'm referencing your drawing BLA-1.
I think we would have to deal with both. That in terms of straightening out or granting cross easements and so forth, Van Dyke Drive and what you're referring to as the smaller driveway would both need to be dealt with.
All right, so that one in the center is not the one you were talking about then.
No.
It was Van Dyke Drive was the one you were talking about that would create the said frontage.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. With that, I'm going to go ahead, unless there's any other further questions, I'm going to close it to the public. There being none, I'm going to close it to the public and open it up for discussion.
I don't believe we should vote on it until we look and see it for ourselves. I know what that looks like, and I know what.
And I haven't done that. It's close to it.
Believe me, drive up that road in a car, and drive back down, it's gonna be an experience.
You're saying don't take the dump truck?
Go.
My biggest thought is we're creating another landlocked piece of property accessed by an easement.
But
It
there's,
has zero road frontage because the best I could tell from all this discussion, Van Dyke is just a driveway. The way was left off when they wrote drive. So I'm not quite sure in creating another landlocked piece of property. I don't know.
you have two homes using it already.
Right.
The Chamberlain property is quite large enough to be divided and still have ample room for proper building lot.
But you're making another non-conforming lot.
So you
True.
would make four non-conforming lots, right? 1, 2, 3, and then if you subdivide the next one, it'd be
There's
4.
3 already, and we
Yeah.
would be adding to that, true. But what is the detriment to adding one more? You have 3. One more is it, how horrible is that?
Oh.
It sounds horrible over there.
Well, that's the age-old question. When is one more too many?
Too much.
Okay. It's, if you look at apartments, is one more too many? If you look at a lot of things, is one more too many? In some questions is yes, and some questions is no.
Considering
I
it's not a
don't-
public street and we don't know who's gonna maintain it or how well they're gonna maintain it.
Well, that would have to be all in the documents if it approved, because I'm sure some swift individual, if there's a motion to approve it, that would add all that kind of stuff into it.
Don't look at me. I'm not gonna do it.
But,
You know, there is something to the floodgates. Most of what we've been seeing are newly bought pieces of property, and everybody's trying to make the most advantage that they can of what they have. But at what point does it just overrun the ordinances?
well, I'm looking at, is do you allow lot 17 to subdivide?
I can see that, that's a big lot also, yes.
Huh?
It is a big lot, yeah.
Yeah, it's a very big lot, and it looks like if I had to look at it proportionally, they could put another house up there, extend that easement on down, and now you got another lot, another house.
Oh. 17 is big.
I mean, they haven't applied for nothing or anything, but that same logic then would apply. Because they have the same features. If you could say one of them meets all the conditions, in this instance, I think they're so closely related, you're hard. And I know we constantly say each property has to make it on its own merit. But that's, yeah, what's your thoughts?
I don't have thoughts either way. I'm going to go with the majority on this one. Hopefully you're not split 2-2.
So what say ye?
All right, I'll make the motion that we approve ZO 2020-085 variance for 17 Van Dyke to subdivide to make a additional building lot with the conditions that there's sewer and water to the lot and proper right-of-way will be documented on Van Dyke Drive to access that additional lot and the other lots next door, lot 16 and 17 on our map. Because granting the variance would not be contrary to the public interest. There's, the lot size is permitted in the zone. The variance for granted the spirit and service would be observed because access to both lots for all residents. Van Dyke is privately owned but adequately maintained. Granted, the variance would do substantial justice because it would allow the development of another home and would not diminish the value of the homes that are already there. If the variance were granted, the values of surrounding properties would not be diminished at all. No fair substantial relationship exists between the general public purposes of the ordinance provision result in unnecessary hardship because the purpose of the frontage requirement is to provide access. And in this case, the access is there. Although not publicly accepted street, it is still being used presently. The purpose of the use is reasonable because it allows reasonable use of the property and has no adverse impacts of the neighborhood. That is my motion.
We have a second.
I'll second it. Oops.
We have a second. Discussion?
Yeah, I do have one discussion, and that is that as far as the hardship proposed use is reasonable one, we don't know if it's going to have any adverse impacts on water and sewer because we don't know what's up there. Those are public services. I'm not seeing a school bus full of kids or police, fire, and ambulance being a problem, but public utilities are also a public service.
Okay.
And that could be a matter, and what I guess I don't know is, do we caveat this, that the planning board has to approve any further development on this property if we approve the subdivision. And I think Mr. Attorney Fitzgerald already implied that this was a preliminary before going to the planning board.
I think it does have to go to the planning board. And I see Dean, the planning director, shaking his head yes, so.
Okay,
If
well,
water and sewer is not adequate, part of the plan would have to be to upgrade the lines in order to accommodate the extra lot.
okay, but that wouldn't have any adverse impact on the 2 lots that are already existing beyond it, would it?
They would all be considered, all of their flow in and out would be considered.
Well, what I'm trying to get at, Dean, is I don't want to approve a mini subdivision, if you will. And then all of a sudden, because it's on a private road, the 2 property owners on the end have to start upgrading their water and sewer. Because
Well,
of
they
some,
might have to.
on a neighboring
That's
property.
They might have to upgrade up through their property. The other properties would have to maintain their own property.
Okay,
This will be part of the planning board process.
okay,
Figure out what the utilities are, what size they are, what's the current flow, does it handle the current stuff? If it doesn't, then they would have to be upgraded.
okay. Well, then I'm seconding that based on the fact that the planning board is going to review this and make an ultimate determination as to what's going to happen up there.
Okay, so we have a second. I would like to add one condition, and that's gonna be that the road easements be taken care of in each of the deeds so that they're all planned and described of how their maintenance is gonna be taken care of. Is that fair enough? Did everybody hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Is that condition acceptable?
So stated.
Okay. So we have a motion. We have a second. I'll do a roll call and see how we vote. Okay. Gail,
I'm going to vote no.
Roland,
No.
Mike Phillips,
I'm going to vote no.
Mike,
I will vote yes.
me, I vote no. So the motion fails 4-1. Okay,
Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time.
all right. Now we're gonna go back to see if Greg is on the line.
He's actually physically here.
Oh, hi, Greg.
All the guys,
Greg in the flesh.
I would suggest while you're talking, have the headphones here, because otherwise there's a little delay and you start getting confused.
Okay.
And then when you need to listen to them, then you can put the headphones back on. The microphone is right here, so.
Okay,
All right,
so put them on. Okay, when I need to talk.
just, yeah,
Okay.
and you're up right now, so.
Better up.
All right, how you doing this evening?
Good, how are you tonight? Go ahead.
My name's Greg Selesky, and we live at 43 Opal Lane. We're just looking to build a garage, 22 by 30, and with an office space up above and storage, and then with a little mudroom in between the house and the garage.
Where's Opal Lane?
What was that?
Where is Opal Lane?
Opal Lane is at the end of Warren Street and Emerald
Oh.
Drive,
Up there,
up by the hospital.
down by Merrimack Street.
Merrimack Street. You go, you keep on going, Merrimack turns into Emerald Drive.
Mhm. What kind of encroachment are you looking for in the, it looks like your front and side setback, there's gonna be an encroachment?
No, not on side, not on the side, just on the front.
Just on the front?
We're 10 feet from the property line, from the setback. So the 22 feet to go to the 22-foot wide garage and the 8-foot adds up to 30, and that gives us still 10 feet to the property line from my neighbor. So we're only looking for the variance towards the street. We have a total of 50 feet. And it looks like there's whatever that line is, the 25-foot line from the street is, so we gotta be 25, we're supposed to be 25 foot back from that. So the setback, that's correct. So
And you need to be 15 in that zone, residential general, right?
I apologize, what was that?
No, I'm sorry, that's single family residential, okay. And how close are you gonna be to the street?
50 feet,
50 or 15?
50, 50.
Any other questions of the applicant at the moment? If not, what I'd like to do is go ahead and open it up to the public and ask if anybody from the public wishes to speak for or against this application. Please raise your hand.
No one.
Okay, let the record indicate no one from the public wishes to speak for or against this application. Therefore, I'll bring it back to the board.
You're not blocking anybody's view there? You're not blocking anybody's view with the new garage?
No. We're in a cul-de-sac. So we're at the end of the cul-de-sac.
Probably get some kind from people want to build a view.
Oh, yeah, no,
There's not much we can do about that. If they want to
Yeah.
build it, it's legal.
right.
I think there are woods behind you, correct?
A lot of woods, yes. It's all woods, yeah.
Greg, is there any reason why you couldn't just leave the mudroom the way it is and move the garage back to be a little more conforming, so it jogs back a bit deeper?
Oh, actually going back, well, I have wetlands in the backyard, so I have to stay 30 feet away from that. It's really not much of a wetlands, it's just more of a drainage, but they call it a wetlands. There's no water back there.
Is it 30 or 50, Dean?
It depends, and I don't know what's out back there.
So was it?
It depends.
Um,
Any other questions? Gail?
Well, I know there's woods back there. So there's no encroachment on the wetlands that anybody in the planning department knows about? That's my question.
We'll go look at it, but I don't know what's there or what's not there.
Well, the applicant says it's a wetland.
I think that's the woods that go behind, that joins up with the old Frudenberg building, and there's,
Not really. This would be going towards Province Street.
Yeah.
If you kept walking straight out of our backyard, it would go straight. So Freudenberg's off to our.
yeah,
as you
just
look
to your left.
To left, that's
Yep.
correct. You can see Freudenberg right from our
I
property.
could cut through the woods and
You
get to
could,
my house.
I mean, 100, yeah, a couple hundred yards, you'd be right there.
Yep, I could cut through there and be in my yard.
Oh, okay.
That's why I know the woods.
Oh, no, the woods, yeah.
Yeah.
It goes out to the sand pits, up that.
Yep, over to the sand pits and stuff.
Sand pits. Well, I never knew
Yeah.
the sand pits to be wet.
There's really no water back there. It's just a area that occasionally when it rains, it just collects there. That's about it. So I guess technically it's not buildable. There's nothing you can do back there. But that's what I was told.
Okay.
Most of that back there is city property, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, the property directly behind us is owned by my neighbor who, again, it was landlocked, so it's not buildable. So he sold it when his lot was the last one sold in the cul-de-sac. He just asked him if he wanted to buy it, and he did. So I didn't have any need for it, but it's just, again, it's kind of landlocked, so you really don't have you can't do anything with it. We love it because looks like you're in the middle of plenty of woods in the back there that, undeveloped.
Well, this is probably just wet because of the construction of that particular subdivision, correct?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Well, when they built the subdivision, when they built out Opal Lane, what was it, 35 years ago?
Just 20. It was 20. It was a lot of sand in the area. That's really what we were. It's just it was a sand pit basically, where
Yeah.
I guess the end of the road you could go there, and I guess a lot of people hung out there, and they call it the sand pits. So
Yeah.
that's where we're sitting on. It's just a lot of sand.
I remember it well.
May I interject a little bit of information? I have the GIS up in front of me. The wetland area that he's referring to is reflected. It would have to be confirmed because they do change. To give a point of reference, the rear corner of his house is approximately 55 feet off of what's indicated on GIS. Now, there is a margin of error, obviously. It is GIS. There is some indication that there may be something there. It would have to be confirmed. The other point to clarify what Gail asked earlier, the front portion as it's proposed is 15 feet off the property line, which does sit back a fair bit from the edge of pavement. From edge of pavement, the garage would be approximately 45 to 50 feet. I know Gail had asked earlier how far back he was. It's 15 feet from the property line in the front.
So we're looking at, Karen, are we looking
There's
at
like
a
a 30-foot right of way on the cul-de-sac before his property starts. Am I correct in that?
I didn't hear what you said, Mike. I'm sorry.
There's a 30-foot right of way from the edge of pavement to where Greg's property starts?
Yeah, there's the road right of way is fairly wide at that cul-de-sac. in your packet, you'll have the photo image where I've kind of overlaid
Yeah.
that exactly.
Yeah, it's quite a big right of way there.
Any other questions? Gail,
No, no,
Mr. Foot,
No, I don't.
I've opened it to the public already
You've opened and closed.
and closed. Okay. Any closing comment?
No.
Okay, you may have a seat. I'm gonna close it to the public and everybody, bring it to the board for discussion.
It seems fairly reasonable to me unless anybody has a question of the impact from the wetlands outback also indicated on their tax maps. I don't know, other than that, it seems reasonable.
Well, that in itself is why he's positioned the garage to where it wouldn't interfere with the perception of a wetlands, perceived wetlands. And so that's why he put it to where he said he was going to put it. So you wouldn't have to worry about, is it, isn't it?
okay.
Just put it here and it won't matter.
I think there really is a hardship in the land in this particular case. Fine.
Yeah. Gail,
Yeah, I'm good with it.
all right?
With the big right of way, that it wouldn't look like the garage is right on top of the road, so I don't see a problem there.
Okay. Anybody'd like to do a motion?
I'll do a motion. Motion to accept application number Z0 2020-0084 for 43 Opal Lane. The owner is looking to build a mudroom and garage. Looking for a variance from, what am I seeing, Article 7-236, 3S A and B. Is it what the variance is for? They're looking to add a garage. Granting the variance would not be contrary to the public interest because the addition would be adding value to the home and keeping in line with the other homes in the area. This house was built in what, 98, and I'm surprised it doesn't have a garage now. If the variance is granted, the spirit of the ordinance would be observed because it would be keeping in line with other homes in the neighborhood. Granting the variance to do justice because it would make the home easier to live in, a little cleaner in our winters. And it would not diminish, you would not imagine that it would diminish the value of the properties around it. So no fair and substantial relationship exists between the general public purpose of the ordinance and the specific application. This is a reasonable spot to configuration to be able to place the garage and mudroom on the property. And it's the most reasonable one and less impact for the rest of the property.
We have a motion.
I'll second that.
Okay, Mr. May, you seconded. I believe you're muted, so Gail did not hear you.
Okay, so we have a second discussion of the motion. There being none, by roll call, We'll take a vote. Gail,
Yes.
Roland,
Yes.
Mike,
Favor the motion?
and Mike.
I'm sorry.
Mike?
Favor the
Yes.
motion?
Mr. Phipps?
Yes, favor the motion to pass.
Steve favors the motion to pass. So the motion passes. Okay,
Thank you very much.
it is now after 10. And our normal stopping hours are 10. So that leaves us with a healthy agenda. And it was, I received an email to entertain a secondary date for having another meeting.
It had been briefly discussed. I don't know, Dean, if you'd like to interject at this point. Do we want to schedule a second meeting?
I thought it was a good idea. We better get ahead of the schedule.
I would say we have to do something, because I'm not sure that we're going to clear this logjam if we continue just rolling things over from month to month.
Yeah.
Why don't we just keep our package?
Right, keep your packages, and the issue is going to be posting, and of course we have to decide on a date.
I just have one question, Dean.
Yeah.
If we do a second meeting, we're not going to be adding anything to the agenda that exists now. It's just-
Correct.
It'll just be to complete this agenda.
And any applications that are not on this agenda go to November,
Go
right?
to November.
Okay,
Yes.
all right.
So the cleanest thing to do would be to continue the meeting to assume, a date soon, as opposed to adjourning and then we have to repost and all that stuff.
Well, fine.
I can't do Friday.
Saturday morning.
I work. I have next Tuesday evening. What does that look like for y'all?
I can,
We have another meeting that night.
All right.
so Dean, what
How
are the,
about Monday, the 26th, or is that a council meeting?
That is a council meeting.
We don't have to meet here.
The council is not meeting here anyway, but I don't know that you want to compete with them.
I don't think it's much of a competition.
Well,
Come on.
I know that one of the applications,
There's interest in.
there's, the abutters have, at least one of the abutters is a city councilor, so I'm just pointing that out.
All right, well, you guys decide on a date. Because we got to come up with something that all 5 of us can be there, because we have no alternates. I prefer to get it out of the way this week.
This week?
This week.
That would have to be Thursday or Friday.
CIP meets Thursday.
No,
Yeah, I got CIP on Thursday.
okay.
What about Wednesday?
Coming Wednesday.
Yeah,
Yep.
the 21st.
We can make that work.
I could do Wednesday.
I could be here.
Wednesday, 6
At what time,
I
Dean?
think I have conservation that day.
You do.
We're talking, do they meet in the day or night?
Night, of course.
I'll be able to work something out. I'll do this.
So y'all want to do 6:30?
Sure, get right to it.
Yeah, I'll make a motion. We continue this meeting until Wednesday night, the 21st at 6:30 PM via Zoom.
Did Suffers Drive pass the first thing on your agenda?
Yes. All right, 6:30, 10:21. Here,
Yes.
Oh,
City Hall.
Zoom.
Okay,
You have a motion. Do you need a second?
I'll second that.
all those in favor?
Aye.
It looks like everybody said yes. Okay. Anything else before the board before we adjourn? Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Good night. All those in favor?
Second.
Second. Good night.
All right, kids.
What's this thing for Lenny Lane? Lenny Lane?